Welcome to the Learning Investor Podcast. Sit back, relax, and take it slow. Curious minds will always find a way to grow. So come along, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Learning Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Warren Potts. Today, we're going to be talking about U.S. Treasury bills, or T-bills for short. I'm excited for this one. Way back in the day when I was dipping my toe into investing, this is one of the things that I did, and I did it for a couple different reasons. I was able to get my investment back fairly quickly, and it is relatively safe. So let's dive in. So what is a Treasury bill? A Treasury bill is a short-term debt security. So all that means is it's a loan to the U.S. government for a short period of time. So the maturity lengths on these bills are 4, 6, 8, 13, 17, 26, and 52 weeks. So if you compare that to a Treasury bond, which I did in the previous episode, those mature in 20 to 30 years. As a quick reminder, the maturity date is when the issuer of the bill, aka the U.S. government, needs to pay you back for the full principal, what's written on the bill. So why I like these when I was starting out? I loved these because they allowed me to put my money out there, invest in something, get interest, and get it back in a relatively short period of time. So like I said, these have four weeks all the way up to 52 weeks. I could put $1,000 out there for 6 weeks or even 4 weeks, get a little bit of interest and get my money back. It's great to go through those motions, and it's a great way to get started. If you buy, doesn't matter how much. Obviously, the minimum increments on a T-bill are $100, and they go in increments of 100. But no matter how much you put into a T-bill, you are investing. Congratulations, you have started investing your money. Another reason why I like these when I was starting out, and also why I'm starting off with Treasury bonds and T-bills with these episodes, is because they're relatively safe. They're funded by the U.S. government, so they're not going anywhere for a while. They're also very easy to do. This is something you can go online, set up an account with treasurydirect.gov, transfer the money, purchase a bill, goes in and out of your account. Very easy. And it's very short, so you're not out of whatever money you're deploying, you're getting back fairly quickly. And when you're starting off, a lot of times that can be important to you. So the interest rate on T-bills is different from T-bonds. So the interest rate on a Treasury bill is different from a Treasury bond. This is how this works. They are decided in an auction, just like they are for Treasury bonds. But a T-bill will be discounted, and it will pay you the full value at maturity. So here's what this means, and I'll do it in an example so it's easy to understand. So let's say I purchase the minimum, $100 T-bill. I'm actually only going to pay, and this is just an example, you'd have to go on and look at the rates. I'm only going to pay $90 for that $100 T-bill. And when it matures, I will get the full face value, $100. So that $10 difference that I made is the interest income on that T-bill. That's the interest I'm making on that. T-bills do not pay interest during the term, which means whether you do a 4-week T-bill or a 26-week or even a 52-week T-bill, you're not getting interest payments at any time during that term. You get your interest when it matures. So the interest is only paid when the bill matures. And it happens, just like I said, you're going to pay a discounted rate for that bill. And then when the bill matures, they'll pay you back the full face value of the bill. So auctions. I brought up that the interest rate is set by auctions. How the auctions work. I went over this in the previous episode for Treasury bonds, but I'll cover it here just so you don't miss it. Government auctions the amount they want to borrow. So the U.S. Treasury announces the amount of debt they want to raise, right? How much money they want to borrow. They announce the term. In this case, for a Treasury bill, it would be all of those weeks that I listed, 4 weeks all the way up to 52 weeks, and then they're going to announce the auction date. There's going to be 2 different types of bids that take place at this auction. You're going to have a competitive bid. These are not used by individual investors. This is usually large institutions that will put in a competitive bid. They will specify how much they're willing to buy, aka lend the U.S. government, and at what interest rate they want to lend it at. Now, if they put too high of an interest rate, they run the risk of the U.S. government saying, hey, that's too high, we're going to deny your bid. So there's a little bit of risk there. The second type of bid you're going to see is a non-competitive bid. This is used for individual investors like myself and yourself. You agree to accept whatever yield or interest rate the auction sets. So when the auction's complete, it'll set an interest rate, and that's what you're going to get. So the auction takes place, the Treasury collects all the bids, and they determine what the highest interest rate they're going to pay, and then all the accepted bidders receive that yield. A side note on this is the competitive bidders, like I said, if they go above whatever rate the U.S. Treasury accepts, they're going to get denied. So they won't get awarded any T-bills. So that's how the auctions work. There's a competitive bidding process. Once that's completed, any non-competitive bidders that just sign up and say, hey, whatever interest comes out of that competitive bid, put me on the list. They make the awards and they dish out the T-bills. You receive your T-bill in the portal online. They take money out of your account, and you wait for the term until maturity, and then you get paid back. So Treasury bills and taxes, it is considered interest income. If you want to learn more about interest, the difference between interest income and income, go check out my Treasury bond episode. I actually cover that in detail. Plus, I give you a list of states, which depending on what state you live in could impact your taxes on any of the interest you earn on investments. Treasury bills are taxed on a federal level on any of the interest earned, but they are not taxed on state or local taxes. So a quick example, when I bought that $100 Treasury bill that I paid $90 for, when it hit maturity, I got the full $100. I earned that $10 worth of interest. I would be taxed federally on the $10 of interest. So I have been asked, why not just do a high yield savings? And I cover this when I go over income versus interest income in the other episode, but interest that you earn on a high yield savings, which I actually do recommend getting a high yield savings. If you have a savings account and you're using it for savings, I highly recommend it's a high yield savings. You can still take it in and out. You're just getting return on your money. But the interest that you make on high yield savings is taxed both federally and state and locally, versus a T-bill is only taxed federally and not state and local taxes. So you're avoiding a piece of taxes, which means you'll get a better return. However, your money will be deployed for however long the maturity date is on your bill, so you won't have access to it. So that's the switch up. So when you go on treasurydirect.gov and you're looking at T-bills, you're going to see a couple different interest rates. And here's what they mean. So when you go on there, you're going to see a high rate and an interest rate in 2 different columns, and they're going to be 2 different numbers for the same bill. The high rate is the highest accepted rate at the auction. So remember, the U.S. government says, this is the highest amount of interest that I'm going to borrow for, and anyone above that, I'm not going to give you an award. It's the rate all successful non-competitive bidders receive. So it's the interest rate you're going to get being a non-competitive bidder, and the competitive bidders who bid at or below that rate. When you see that number, that's what that means. It's also calculated on a 360-day year basis. This can seem like it's confusing, but I looked this up of why this is, and it's basically because it's how it's historically been done with the banks and financial institutions to simplify their model for doing interest calculations. It also makes cleaner decimal values. It also allows you, when you make your calculations that way, to compare the returns you get to other short-term debt investments. So another easy way to calculate this and kind of think about it would be if I purchase a 4-week T-bill and the interest rate is 4% and I put $1,000 in there, that means if my money was in there for a year, my interest would be $40. Okay? Since my money's only in there for 4 weeks, I'm only going to get a portion of that $40. So an easy way to calculate that is, let's say I'm putting $1,000 in. It's at 4%. I know I'm getting the $40. I divide that $40 by there's 52 weeks in the year, and then I just multiply it by how many weeks my maturity date is on my T-bill. It's an easy way to calculate and see what your return is. So when you go on there and you're looking at, 4% and it's 4 weeks, just bear in mind that that's an annualized number, and you're not going to get 4% in 4 weeks. You're getting 4% if your money was in there a year, but it's only going to be in there for 4 weeks of a year. So you're only going to get 4 weeks worth of that return. So like I said at the beginning, this is a great place to start. Dip your toes in. It's safe. It gets you used to deploying money out there, not having access to it, getting interest on that money, and then getting that money back in a relatively short period of time. If you're just starting out investing, that can be very helpful. And then they've got different ranges all the way up to 52 weeks, so you could invest even up to a year. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, shoot me an email at thelearninginvestorpodcast@gmail.com, or if you want to hear a particular topic, but I will keep going through different types of investments and bringing them to you. All right, I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Learning Investor Podcast. One step smarter, one thought better. We'll be back soon, you already know. Until next time, that's the show.